and good evening. Welcome once again to Branco Broadcast. I'm Bob Branco. Welcome to a cool evening here in September on the 12th. Our guest is Cantor, Mindy Jacobsen. She will be speaking about her activities. And Mindy, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you this evening.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here. And so I'm understanding that you want me to talk about my life. Is that the things that I mentioned in the promo?
Yes, just stick by your bio, and we'll ask you questions at the end.
Very good. So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I went to school there. I moved when I was 21, and I'm going to back up a little bit, though, before I moved, because my story is about blazing trails. And I never meant to blaze trails. I just didn't like doing some things the way everybody had to do them, so I wanted to do them my own way. And one of the things I wanted to do when I was about 11 was to be a future teacher. They had this program at school where when the teachers went on their break, they would have 2 sixth graders go into the classroom and do different activities with the kids. So I wanted to do that, and they had never had a blind kid do it before, but I pushed my way in. I just said, this is what I'd like to do. Who do I have to talk to? I went to the principal and talked to her. You know how it is. You just have to, you go where you got to go, do what you got to do. And then in the end, I remember when I was called aside and told that I would be a future teacher in the following year. This was in my 5th grade. And I ran down the hall crying, and I was so excited. And I remember clearly not knowing that you could cry when you were happy. Well, I knew then. But anyway, it's been sort of like that. When I was 21, I did decide to move to New York. I've gotten a chance to do things. I've been totally blind all my life. And when I was in college, I sang with the Sing Out America groups. They were the offshoot of Up With People. They wouldn't let me travel with Up With People, and that one I didn't win on. They just felt that they couldn't have a blind person traveling with them. And so, but when I was 21, my problem was transportation. And I always had to wait for somebody to take me where I wanted to go, and it was driving me up the wall. So I had a pact with my parents that I could get from them a one-way ticket to New York so that I could take advantage of the transportation opportunities here. Here you can take buses and trains and, subways and everywhere. So I moved here thinking that I was going to go into music education and got my first job at the Jewish Braille Institute. I was a clerk, and after a few weeks they decided that I should teach a transcriber's course, which was really wrong because I did not have a proofreader or transcriber's license, so I was learning right along with my students, except for the fact that I'd been reading it all my life. Excuse me, allergies, I guess. And, when you've seen Braille, and you've been reading it all the time, you recognize things, and you know things just because you've recognized them. But I did that, and about a month after I was working there, they used to give concerts every month or works of art of one kind or another. And they asked me to sing because the singer that they had planned for developed laryngitis. So that was on a Tuesday, and the program was on a Thursday. And, I was new here, and I had to find an accompanist and work up a program, which I did. And the following day, I was called down to lunch with a member of the board and a couple of one member of the board and a couple of members on staff. And they actually provided lunch. I thought that was pretty cool. But they also offered me a scholarship if I wanted to go to cantorial school. And I have to say that although the cantor, it looked like a good thing when I was a little kid, and I thought, gee, I should be a cantor because we had a cantor with a real good voice. I never really given it much thought. My connection with Judaism was that when I was a little kid, I was swinging on a swing with my friends, and one of my friends was singing "Jesus Loves Me," and I learned it, and I sang it with her. And my mother heard me singing it out the window. And that was in the middle of the week, and by that Saturday I was in Hebrew school, religious school. And so I ended up going to religious school for a while. But the thing was that it looked like a great opportunity to me. I knew there were really very few other women there. There were 3 ahead of me. And I had to audition, I needed a sponsor and all that, but I found the people by talking to people. I just, that's mostly how I've made contact. I said, what I'm looking for is this. And someone always knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, and I found the people I needed. I got my sponsor, and I got into the school, but when I went for my audition, they told me, this man was sitting in the room. He walked into the room where I was sitting waiting for my audition, and he said to me, I already know that I'm going to vote against you because I don't think women's voices can do the things you have to do to really sing the way Cantor should sing. So I already knew that there were going to be votes against me. Well, that's a nice little thing to happen just before you audition. It scares the heck out of you. So I auditioned, and they sent me down to the dean's office. So I figured that was it. Figured I was never going to see this place again. But he welcomed me with open arms, and he was always that way through my whole career. So I did go to school there. I got a chance to travel all around the country because the first year, we were supposed to intern for 3 or 4 years, and that would mean working within a congregation and, being their cantor, and I didn't get a job the first year. So that worked out nicely because they sent me all around the country, and I got a chance to go to various congregations and show them what a woman's voice would be like. And, of course, after I had heard the gentleman, I think that was a gentleman, who came in and talked to me about voting against me, I was determined that I was going to do the stuff with my voice that guys did. So I went to this one place, I'll never forget it, and then a lot of them were a lot like this, but this took the cake. I went to Corpus Christi, Texas, and they were just so kind there. Everybody was delightful, that lovely old Southern charm. And I had my first guide dog at the time. The first night that we were there, they asked me to let him loose. He was still in the harness, but I just couldn't take him out of harness. I was a little afraid. So I just put his leash down, and he started walking around the room, and he went from person to person to person, giving them his paw. That was one funny dog. But in any event, the next day I went to, TV interviews and radio interviews and stuff, because this woman's cantor thing was very unusual. So I went to them, and when I came back, there on my bed was a new set of clothes laid out, my clothes, but they were laid out, and they were running a bath for me. So I had been assigned a lady-in-waiting, I guess you'd call her, a valet. I think a valet is for a guy. I'm not really sure, but anyway, she ran my water, And I took my bath, and when I was in there, she took my clothes that I had taken off, and they were washed. And I, put on my new clothes and did the evening activities. And so, as was the case with most of the places I went, I had interviews. Then I would go to this place particularly got a beauty salon appointment for me so I could get my hair and nails done while I was there. I later learned to do it before I got there. But then that night I had a rehearsal with the choir in the afternoon, and that night I was with the congregation in the choir. I was the cantor. They didn't have a cantor. And the next morning, of course, I officiated. And that afternoon, I gave a concert for the community, and then Saturday evening, they had a big party for me, a gala, in my honor, which was so neat. And then on Sunday, I got a chance to work with the children in the religious school. It was just the most incredible weekend. It's the first one that there was, and there were others, but that one I just remembered so clearly. And just before I was ready to leave, the woman who was my lady-in-waiting, I guess, asked me to autograph her slippers. Friends, couldn't do it. I just couldn't think to autograph somebody's slippers. So I dictated a note to the lady of the house, and she gave it to her. And but I couldn't do that. That autograph, and then too, just think about it. You walk on the slippers, so the autograph's going to go away very soon. So at least she had a little note. But that was the kind of life I led for the first year that I was in the Cantor. And then I had a congregation. I was to stay there 3 years, but we liked each other very well, so I ended up there for 9 years. But I didn't stay in school all those 9 years. I left after the third, which was when I was scheduled to leave, but they didn't want my guide dog, on the pulpit of the biggest congregation in New York City, Temple Emmanuel. And so I told the people at the JBI about that situation, and I got a call a few hours later from the JBI people saying, Temple Emmanuel just wants you to know that you're more than welcome to bring your dog up. I always wondered how that happened, and so when I began working with the JBI as a staff member, I found out that what they did was they offered Temple Emmanuel good press and bad press, and Temple Emmanuel chose good. So I got to bring my guide dog up there when I was ordained. So that's my Cantor story. I've been, and that one took a lot of pushing, guys. That one was real hard because the work in school there was nothing in very, very little in Braille, and JBI tried to keep up with me, but there were semesters when I was reading at least 1,000 pages a semester, and it's just very hard for anybody to keep up with that kind of reading. And then there was tons of music to memorize, plus the music for my congregation, and I was taking 21 credits a semester. It was the only way to get out of there in 5 years, but my scholarship ended in 5 years. Maybe I could have pushed for a few more years to finish my degree, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted out of there. So that was one of the hardest doors I ever had to open. But then I went to I went and I decided to join Sweet Adelines. Sweet Adelines is a chorus, a group of choruses and quartets, around 28,000 women strong, and we do barbershop for women. And I ended up 2 years after I joined. I told the guy I was seeing at the time that I would just stand in the middle of the risers. I said, I'm ready to relax and just be one of the crowd. And he said, in 2 years, you will be leading it. In 2 years, the director left, and I was in charge. And I became the director. They had never had a blind director, and I directed the chorus for 13 years, after which I stepped down because I didn't like the way things were going outside of the chorus. And I just sang with them because one of my best friends was the director, so I didn't leave her in the lurch. I just sang with them. And now I have a quartet that I sing with. So Sweet Adelines has been a very big part of my life, and it was just another door to open. And I had a guide dog for 30-something years, and then I moved here. I married Carl 10 years ago, and he had lost his wife to illness, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and we started dating and married 3 years later, and I moved out here to Brooklyn. I would like to call them the suburbs, but Brooklyn is part of New York City, and a wonderful part, I should say. And we have been using car service, and I felt that it was kind of a waste of a guide dog, and she was about ready to retire in any event, so it was time, and I just didn't replace her. So I'm using a cane now, but I've used both. I'm a Braille reader. I think, Carl, have I said everything I ought to tell?
I think what you failed to mention is that when you became director, you took that chorus to first place championship of your division 3 years running.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess, I'd be happy to open up to questions. Thanks.
You also failed to mention all the computer stuff you did.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay.
If anybody wants to ask about that, that's fine. I do want to give Gloria the first question to ask because she has to run. Gloria, you're first.
Oh, Alan, don't run. You can't leave me. Oh, I'm so impressed with your story, and so knowing Temple Emmanuel, you really did make milestones. I guess it was with Rabbi Sobel.
Yeah. Mhm.
He was there. Yeah. And do you do any cantorial work now?
Well, as a guest, I'll do things as a guest, but I don't want to take I was offered a position last year, as a matter of fact. But no, I don't want to take any positions at this point. I'm 65, and
You're not in full voice.
I am actually. My voice is okay, and as I say, I'm singing with the quartet, but it's a lot of work. Memorizing different things all the time. Yeah.
My neighbor on my floor in my apartment building is now the assistant rabbi at Temple Emmanuel.
Oh, yeah?
One of
Temple Emmanuel in New York? Where? Which?
On Temple Emmanuel on Fifth Avenue, yeah.
Yeah.
And her roommate, when she was in school, is now assistant cantor in Westchester Reform in Scarsdale.
Oh, my gosh.
In the cantorial family of a very dear friend is the cantor in Hastings. So if you're ever interested in any kind of program, especially with the one in Hastings on Hudson, which is pretty close to you, I'm sure she would love to have you as a guest.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, I think that would be interesting for her congregation, which is a very upscale New York City type of artsy.
Oh, yes, I know them. Believe me. Many of my friends were, Yeah, no, I know these congregations. Sure.
Right. Well, I would love to be able to introduce you because your story is a story, and I'm sure many people would come to hear you, and you could sing all together.
Uh-huh.
It'd be wonderful.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just commend you for your, pushing through these negative people, like up with people. I used to really respect them until you told me that story because they're great. So I just think that's a good example for people. Don't give up on your dream. Keep pushing. I think sometimes adversity makes you try harder, because I've been through a lot of stuff like that. And people say you can't, and you say, oh, yeah, you watch me. So I just want to congratulate you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I have some questions.
I too.
Mm-hmm. Who was that said they had some questions?
This is Claudia.
Oh, fancy meeting you here. Hello.
Yeah.
It's my friend. Okay.
I'll try to limit it. So, 2 questions. One, what is meant by good grass and bad grass? And for those of us who may not be familiar, can you explain what are the duties of a cantor?
Okay, I didn't know what the good and bad grass was.
Pressman.
Oh, press. Oh.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, no wonder I didn't understand it. Okay.
Press.
Press, yes. Okay, now you know.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, they could either have put an article in the Times and in the News and the Post talking about how recalcitrant Temple Emmanuel was, or they could have put an article about me and the fact that I graduated and the fact that I was standing on the steps of Temple Emmanuel and on the altar of Temple, on the pulpit of Temple Emmanuel and so forth. And so they chose the latter.
Mm-hmm.
And what a cantor does, the same things that a rabbi would do. We certainly teach the children. We also, you always hear about the cantor working with the bar and bat mitzvah kids. And, but we also teach in the religious school, and we are on the pulpit for all the services, weddings, and unfortunately funerals and bar mitzvahs and baby namings and everything. People always ask me if I do brisses. I don't have the heart for that. I'm sorry.
Is there singing at a bris? I don't know.
No, not really. We don't. No, we don't.
So
really.
much for terms of equality.
But the thing is, the reason I don't have to just sing as a cantor, when I left my long-term congregation, I worked with a congregation in Broward, North Dade County, and I was acting rabbi and cantor, and that was just for the high holidays. Mm-hmm. So we can do everything except we cannot ordain rabbis and cantors.
A blind moil, wouldn't that be interesting?
No, not me.
Blind what?
Moil, that's the person who does the cutting. When
circumcision.
The circumcision, yeah.
Circumcision, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so...
Where did you graduate? What school did you graduate from?
Hebrew Union College, School of Sacred Music. No, it's Hebrew Union College, Institute of Religion, School of Sacred Music, and they awarded me an honorary doctorate about, 10, 11 years ago.
And are you doing any work now at all, Mindy?
Any work at all? Yeah. I work with seniors, a lot with seniors who are losing vision. I love the work, and I have a phone group which actually has diminished so much. It was with University Without Walls, so we're just going to be doing a group, a mini class in November, all 4 Wednesdays in November. So you can call them and ask them about that if you're interested. But I do other work I teach in vision services for the blind here, and I teach keyboarding for computers because I've spent a lot of time as a computer teacher and consultant. And so I teach that. I teach the very beginners, and most of them are older. And I also have a group that I teach live group in which we talk about various adjustments that you have to make when you're losing vision, things you have to learn to do differently, and things that you can do for yourself and things that maybe you want somebody else to help you with, and kind of knowing the difference.
I think that as being a Jewish from New York, losing vision, I would definitely take your class. I spoke to Zoya already about it, but I think that I just wanted to say for everybody else that doing this is hard enough as a sighted person, but becoming learned in Hebrew and all the prayers and being able to conduct a service is monumental.
Well, now let me just say something about that. I've read Braille all my life, and I'm not trying to diminish what you're saying because I really do appreciate it. But, I mean, it's like, to be honest with you, it's like a sighted person learning to do all that, because since I can read, I mean, I'm not coming from where you are, Gloria. You're coming from the point of having had vision and now having to get used to a whole different way of living. And yes, that is monumental. Okay, you want to talk monumental? That's monumental. But and
compare.
But I was actually
you're able to read the notes. You have to read the notes in Braille. You have to be able to follow, the choir or direct the choir, and it's a lot.
Mindy, do you use Hebrew Braille?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I could do it without it. Oof. Yeah. Hebrew Braille. I also use Music Braille, but I don't usually use I used to have some of my music put into Braille, but it occurred to me that it was impossible to use it on the pulpit, so I ended up just memorizing it, and so I hired people to make recordings for me, tapes, and then tracks. Gosh, when I started with it, I was using an open reel recorder, and I went from that to cassette to mini disc and CD, and now, and when I'm doing it, I'm just using a small memo recorder.
Mindy, it's David from Louisiana.
Hi, David.
Hi, it's good to hear you. God, that sounds like a lot of work you did. I'm assuming you did the slate and stylus note-taking thing, and you probably, I'm curious, though, Hebrew Braille, reads left to right, unlike the print? I'm just wondering, how do they line the music up with the actual Hebrew? Because I thought Braille music always went left to right, and I thought Hebrew, at least in print, went right to left.
That's an incredibly great question. First of all, they never did figure out how to get Braille to go right to left. So even Hebrew Braille reads left to right. But what they do in doing the music is generally the music is written in transliteration. So it's syllables that sound like the Hebrew words, but are written in English letters.
Oh, so they don't use diacritical marks over the Hebrew alphabet like you do in very traditional Hebrew, which has no vowels.
Right, and you can read that, and actually that would be more easily done with music than transliteration, I think, but it just never gained any kind of popularity because I think of the two disciplines required, you've got to know Hebrew Braille and Music Braille, so I suspect that's why it never gained any popularity, but I think that would have been the easiest way to do it for somebody reading it.
Mindy, this is Julie. Oh, I'm sorry, David. I didn't know you weren't finished.
David, finish your thought, and then we'll go to Julie.
Oh, no, I'm done. Thank you, Mindy. Go ahead, Julie.
I was wondering if you could tell me, can you think of anything in your life that would have changed or not changed had you not become a cantor that comes to your mind?
Yes. First of all, being a cantor opened the door to tons of concert work. I'm not sure that I would have gotten that because, you know, when you're just a nobody kind of pumping your way up and standing in lines and just seeing if you pass the audition and everything, you just never know. But being a Cantor and being one of the first, I was a rare commodity. So I got a chance to do things as a Cantor that I would never have gotten a chance to do had I not gone into it. And let me tell you, one of those things was kind of fun, which was, for the most part, whenever I was asked to sing, I was picked up by either someone or, most of the time, a limo. I've ridden in all kinds of limousines.
That's cool.
And it's fun, you know.
Yeah, why not?
Mindy, you mentioned that you were with the Sweet Adelines for a number of years. I, too, am in barbershop. I was with the Northern Lights and the Old Lamplighters, and we did a lot of community work and chorus work with the Sweet Adelines. Many of these people are professionals. They're your business people. They open up many, many doors for you. And the amount of community work and in nursing homes, hospitals, and all the places where you sing, perhaps you could mention just how beneficial it is to make these kind of contacts with people in the community to further your interest as a blind person.
Well, you know, I think a lot depends upon your particular chorus. One thing for me was getting to see other women who had positions that were either equal to mine or above mine. And so I learned a lot about being a supervisor, a boss. For a long while, I was third in line at the JBI, Jewish Braille Institute, or JBI International Institute now. So for a long while, I was third in line, but nobody had ever taught me how to manage. And I learned so much from the other ladies that I was singing with, not only in my own chorus, but whenever we would have regional events, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I really think I learned how to be a manager from my Sweet Adelines contacts.
Just stage presence alone gives you confidence in your own ability.
Well, now, look, I as far as stage presence is concerned, I've been on stage. I sang in my first quartet when I was 9. So I've been on stage all my life. But and stage presence in and of itself is very wonderful. It not only gives you a sense of how to talk to people and how to relate to people, but it also gives you a magnetism, if you will. I don't mean to be, please, I hope you don't think I'm being, too, I can't think.
Blow your own horn. Go ahead.
But it does. It gives you a magnetism, being on stage, and especially when you're in charge of your own show. As the director of my chorus, I very often teamed up with one of the girls, one of the ladies who's actually on the phone with us, and we would MC together. And there's a good sense of not only confidence but camaraderie that comes with that. It's fun. And so yes, that is true. But I mean, when I talked about learning to manage, I mean, people. How do you deal with those difficult people who come to you and think that you really shouldn't be in the position you're in? They should be there because really, you're blind. How can you do it?
Yes. Well, my last question is that working with the Sweet Adelines from the men's choir and chorus was a wonderful experience. there was a lot of skits that we put on, and a lot of hilarity went on, and consequently, there was also a lot of choreographing and dancing that went on. That was almost extemporaneous. Did you have a problem with your choir in that same kind of a situation where it almost became spontaneous?
Well, as far as choreography was concerned, I always had to learn it. Some of the girls would come over to the house, or I would go to their house, and I would just stand there with them, and they would teach me each move. And I would memorize it and work on it until I got it. And the girls that were standing near me would tell me how I was doing, or maybe the director might, if I was working with the director. But once I was out there directing, I didn't have to worry about a thing. Every now and again, we would work out some kind of thing where I would come out with a couple of other girls, or we would do something that we would choreograph. But in general, when I was director, I let them deal with the choreography, and I just waved my arms.
Can I make a comment here? Something you forgot to say, Min. Yeah, something you forgot to say. Several years ago, we were down in Florida for the bat mitzvah of one of Mindy's nieces. I forget which one. But we met with Cantor, who is also a woman, a young woman in the Cantor. She must have been in her late 20s at the most. And at one point, she got the realization that Mindy had been one of the first. And she said to Mindy, I want to thank you on behalf of my generation for making it possible for us to be where we are today. It was you and your generation that made it possible for me to be where I am today. And that was so heartwarming to hear from a younger generation that they do owe a great debt of gratitude to Mindy's generation.
Thank you.
True. Did you enjoy doing most? And do you work in your neighborhood? You said you were in Borough Park.
Actually, I'm not in Borough Park. I'm in Bay Ridge.
All right.
Yeah, I do actually have a live group that I work with in Borough Park, though.
Oh.
Of seniors,
Where
yeah.
is that?
11th Avenue and 52nd Street.
Is it a JCC or a?
Yeah, it's a Bikor Cholim. It's like a senior organization for Holocaust survivors.
Mm.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's a wonderful group. Well, good for you, Mindy.
This is Claudia. I have two more questions.
Okay.
Claudia, go ahead.
You still know the Kol Nidre by
Of course.
What was that?
She asked me if I knew
next.
Okay. I wanted to know, when you were in cantorial school, did you have any kind of mentoring or encouragement from the women who were just ahead of you? Because you said there were a couple. And also, can you describe your public education as a youngster?
Okay. Well, when I was in cantorial school, the first woman cantor, she was 2 years ahead of me. And for a little while, she was a good mentor. But our schedules got so far-flung that we just never saw one another. The other two, I'm afraid there wasn't a whole lot of camaraderie among the women. I think that there was first of all, there was a lot of jealousy because of the fact that I was being sent all around the country. And they weren't, and I don't think that went over real well. I'm sorry?
Why was there that difference?
Well, I put on a good show.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was pretty good.
Don't say it. I believe you.
I was pretty good.
Still are.
Oh, thank you.
Still are, Mindy.
Yeah.
I
still are.
Thank you.
I'm prejudiced.
Yeah. Well, but yeah. No. Once I get going, once I start to sing, I still have it. I still have my voice. So, but I was going to say now, when I was a kid, what was public school like? Well, first of all, my parents had to fight to get me into the Dade County Public Schools because they didn't allow blind children into the schools. So the first step, the courts made, there were seven sets of parents who were fighting. The courts originally made them put our nursery school and pre-K into a school, but we were segregated. So we were like we were in our own class. We didn't really communicate with the other children at all. And through that was the case through the first grade. In the second grade, we were mainstreamed. That's what it was called. We were in classes with the other children, and we would have classes at the beginning or the end of the day for the things that we needed to learn, which, if you're familiar with the terminology, is the expanded core curriculum. And so, that was where we would learn to sign our names and type and use a cane and, read Braille. And we would learn to read Braille there, but we would be in the reading groups in our regular classroom. So that's how it worked. And then as the years went on, of course, and I got into high school. In junior high school, I took chorus, and the chorus director was never around, so I just started teaching the chorus song. So I got called the assistant director. And then in high school, we had a really good chorus program, and I got a chance to do a lot of singing there. And in my senior year, I decided that I wanted to teach. I wanted to intern. So I talked to my old elementary school teacher, and I said, do you think there's any chance could I do this? And she told me the people to talk to, and I talked to them and kept talking to them in my 11th grade. And by the time I was a 12th grader, senior in high school, I was the first kid in the county to be doing a work. What did they call it? A work experience for half my day. So I would work for half the day. Actually, I went to school in the morning, worked for half the day, and then came back to school in the afternoon, late afternoon. So that was the way we worked it. But that was the first time. And then I noticed that my niece got a chance to intern just a few years ago down there. And I knew that I didn't say anything, but I knew that I had started the program, so it's kind of fun.
Wow.
Mindy, I have a question.
Okay.
Marcy, you're next.
Okay. First of all, I went to Hebrew school, and they kicked me out because I had the vision problem, so I ended up being bat mitzvahed as an adult.
Oh.
So, then I went from a conservative temple, which was leaning towards Orthodox. I had a problem there, so I am a Reconstructionist.
Uh-huh.
So I was called up to the pulpit, to the bima, to read from the Torah, and they gave me a cheat sheet, but I actually was reading from the Torah itself. And this was last year on Rosh Hashanah, and I left and went to sit down, and the rabbi was told by one of the other people that was my first. And, on Rosh Hashanah, we always talk about firsts and all that.
Sure.
So the rabbi worked me into her sermon, and I felt like hiding.
Oh, but that was such a wonderful thing. That is so cool.
So,
that's really way cool.
Every year I get to do something like that now. Like, Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to open the Ark in the beginning of the service.
That is great. Now, but let me ask you a question. When you said you read from the Torah, but do you have any vision?
Yeah, I have tunnel vision. I have no peripheral vision. I have like 2 degrees straight ahead.
Yeah.
So the print's just perfect.
I got you.
When you read from the Torah, the print's not big. It's just compact enough.
Good. That's cool.
And my rabbi is also the Cantor. Rabbi Pensner plays both parts. We don't have a Cantor.
Yeah.
So what happens is she has somebody from the congregation lead as the rabbi, and she becomes the Cantor.
Right. That's cool.
But
actually, that's a little easier. When I did it all the parts, and man, by the end of a service, I was a goner. I was so tired.
Now, so did you
You were really.
Yeah. Did you do Kol Nidre?
Sure.
And how was it when were there 2 people to pick you up?
Yes.
Because I noticed
when you
in some synagogue,
you were an innovator.
Let me tell you, one of my congregants said to me, I was prostrate and I got up and he said to me, "Do you know how tempted I was to borrow your shoes and write the word help on each shoe?" That way they would the whole congregation would have seen it, but no, it was just silly.
I mean, I found it easy to learn how to read Hebrew because I have dyslexia, so it was easy to go from right to left and left to right.
May I just say that I'm not sure that many people a lot on the line do know, but there were no women cantors until very recently. And it started with the Reform movement.
Absolutely, and I'm a Reformed Jew, so yes, absolutely.
Well, obviously from Temple
Emmanuel, right?
Right. But I think that just as knowledge for everybody else, and now there are very few conservative cantors, but mainly the Reform, and of course there are no Orthodox cantors that are women. So
well, actually, there are a lot of ladies who have gone into the cantorate in the conservative movement.
Right,
yeah, they
have
a big
now.
Yeah, well, no, they were there when I was finished. But I was ordained in 1978, and so at that point, I mean, I'm telling you, there were very few of us, but very soon thereafter, there was a flood both of conservative and Reform cantors and rabbis coming out. Now, there was a point, I want to say 20 years ago, when it was there were like 90% women in the school, but now it's pretty much evened out again. So it's gone through all kinds of phases.
It started with the Reform movement, correct?
Absolutely.
And then where did the Reconstruction rabbi come in? Because Rabbi Pensner, I think she's celebrating she just finished celebrating her 50th year.
Her 50th year?
Yeah.
She must have been a baby.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure the year that Reconstruction came in, but they had women rabbis all the time. I don't think there was ever a problem. Look, I don't know if you think about it this way, but men were the ones who gave us the opportunity to work in the field. Okay, I mean that's the only way we could have gotten in. But in the Reconstructionist movement, I believe that they always had women, and I think that they started out that way, and that's the way it was. But yeah.
But are not rabbis the old boys network? that hold people back, that women were not allowed to do the things that you were doing? It's like an old boys network with the rabbis?
Well, I would say it more this way. It was more like women getting the vote. You know, women becoming able to vote. It was just a question of time and knowledge. I really do. I think that
tradition.
Well, it was a lot of tradition, but what I'm trying to say is that it happened because it should happen, and it happened because there were a lot of enlightened gentlemen who understood that it ought to happen.
Can I interject here, Truman?
Yeah.
That was at the same time. It must have been something in history that was happening, and it changed, like Mindy says, at the right time, because that's around the same time that Protestantism was ordaining women, too.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Mindy, I just want to tell you that you are so charismatic.
Oh, thank you.
It's just so wonderful hearing your voice. And Carl, too. I think it's way about both of you when I heard Carl 2 weeks ago and hearing you tonight.
Thank you. Is that Joan?
It's Joan. I've just been thrilled to hear you. I got so excited.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Because I'm a little bit older than you, and they never wanted me in Hebrew school, and I was kind of glad. I didn't want to go.
Well, you know what? And I always did want to go, and I had a hard time because there were plenty of places that didn't want me. It was a conservative congregation that didn't want me to become bat mitzvah.
They didn't want you in hotels in Miami.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, that's true. When I was a kid, there were hotels. We walked by it. My grandfather and I walked by a hotel that had wonderful air conditioning. And, you know, if you're in Miami, man, air conditioning coming out of a hotel or a store is just a wonderful thing. I said, Grandpa, let's go in here. And he said, we can't. It says no dogs or Jews allowed. So, yeah, I mean, that just...
I heard about that. I never lived through that, but I had an awful lot of places where I wasn't wanted, and my parents fought to get me into school, too, into high school particularly, because I was the only blind person, and no way did they want blind or black people. So
it was very hard. I mean, I'm not going to say that it was easy, but on the other hand, I'm not going to say that it was terrible. It just became part of who I was, but not because of any great thing, just because that's the only way I could do it. You know, it's like either that or lay down, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Be assertive.
And you
well, we don't lay down. We go forward.
So you got lucky.
Absolutely.
You got lucky. Too, you have a wonderful singing voice, I'm sure, because your speaking voice is so melodic.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
Thank you.
Really.
One more question, and then we'll finish.
Miami City or Miami Beach?
North Miami, all over the place.
Okay. Well,
And Mindy, this is Lauren. I have to. You call yourself a trailblazer, and you certainly are. I mean, from childhood all the way up. So, you know, that's a good term for you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Mindy, it was a real pleasure having you on. Unfortunately, our time has expired. You are very charismatic, and you are a trailblazer, and you're an inspiration as well, along with Carl. And we appreciate having you on the program this evening.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, and great to meet new people, new friends. I like you guys. You're a lot of fun as a group.
Mindy, thank you, Bob. Thank you for highlighting my lady. She's the best.
Yeah. Hope you come back.
Carl, wonderful. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. I learned so much. I really have to thank Bob for putting you guys on, and thank you so very much for being so clear and precise and answering all the questions so well.
And also for being a good friend of immigrant, because I think he's the one.
Very good. Have a good evening.
One more question, Mindy. What high school did you go to?